All right, everyone, good afternoon and welcome back to another episode of Red Pill News. As always, my name is Zach Payne, the corruption detector, and joining me today are two esteemed guests from C60 Evo, my good friend Patty Greer, who also happens to be a filmmaker and more, and Chris Burns, the chief scientist from C60 Evo. My friends, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm excited about sharing this information with your audience.
And I have been watching your shows for 5 years, so it's wonderful to meet you and be a part of your groove train.
Thank you so much, Patty. I really appreciate that. Well, let's start with you, Patty. What's your background? How are you affiliated with C60 Evo?
I founded it with Chris and Robert, who are the only people in the world that have been manufacturing carbon-60 fullerenes for 32 years and selling to research institutions around the world. It was an easy choice when I was seriously wounded and then seriously poisoned by uranium, and I thought I was going to die. But I started taking C60 Evo, the formula. And this is a huge bottle, which I'm just so proud to own. It's the size of my head. But all of a sudden, I started walking again and started feeling almost back to normal. And I thought, where is this coming from? This is a miracle molecule. I got to get on it. And I called the lab, which was Chris and I had met a couple times because I was blabbing about C60 Evo 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago. It wasn't called C60 Evo then, it was just C60 because they were selling to a lot of industrial grade institutions for tires, solar cells, batteries. And Chris and Robert weren't really planning on doing it for people initially. But in 2012, when they did a toxicity study, they realized that the lab rats lived 90% longer and died without any tumors, which was historic. It was also the longest longevity study in history on lab animals. And that convinced me. These guys were on it 5 years, 6 years before the Nobel Prize for C60, and they're wizards. So it was an easy choice. All these C60 companies that are selling garbage made in basements and garages, which I've seen. And then I go to their lab because when I called Chris and I said, let's be partners, let's create a new company. I've got ideas. They said, how soon can we fly you down? Beautiful. And we've been buddies ever since. And we're so opposite. It's fantastic because we have the same mission, which is to help people heal with this miracle molecule.
All right. And Chris, what's your background? How did you first begin to learn about C60 and these various processes that it can help with?
Yeah, so like Patty mentioned, we're the first, so we started in 1991. We're the first company that still exists to deliver commercial quantities of carbon nanomaterials. And I started the company because my business partner was working at the University of Houston. He was separating this soon-to-be Nobel Prize winning molecule from some of its other constituents. And his professor came in one day and said, hey, you guys are a bunch of young kids. This material is selling for $6,000 a gram. You should go start a company, make a reactor and start a company. And at the time I was studying engineering at the University of Houston. And so they brought me on for drawings and to help build out the equipment. And maybe we should roll back a little bit and talk about the molecule, right? So
please.
So I'm holding up, and if you're just listening, don't worry, I'll describe it good enough. I'm holding up a molecule. It kind of looks like a soccer ball. If you imagine the lines on a soccer ball, they represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. You have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. This is the first closed cage molecule ever discovered. And it was discovered in '85 here in Houston. That's where we're based, at Rice University. And the 3 professors who discovered it actually went on to win the Nobel Prize. They won that Nobel Prize because the molecule's amazing. It performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. Like Patty mentioned, better inks, better batteries, better tires, better photocells. This is often when people start getting nervous because, yes, we are talking about a human-consumed supplement, and usually tires, batteries, and photocells don't really mix.
I was going to say, yeah.
and then you throw in that they actually did this toxicity study. They thought this molecule would be toxic for various reasons. The shapes on the exterior are reminiscent of benzene, which is a ubiquitous material, which we absolutely need for modern society, involved in plastics and detergents and just all matter of things, medicines. And because of that, they thought it would be toxic. They put it in this toxicity study. And instead of being toxic, the test subjects that they really, and once we start talking about consuming this, right, we start talking about it as ESS60. The molecule for consumption is ESS60. Those test subjects that they gave olive oil with ESS60 dissolved into it lived 90% longer than the control group. So again, $6,000 a gram, amazing number. 90% longer than the control group, amazing number. The next best way to live longer is called calorie restriction. If you reduce your calorie consumption by 30%, I call that the starve yourself 1/3 to death diet. You can extend your life by 30%.
Wow.
It turns out not many people sign up for the starve yourself 1/3 to death diet. Maybe they need some new marketing. But when that study came out, my business partner and I were very happy-go-lucky carbon nanomaterial scientists. And that study really kind of changed our trajectory into getting into the supplement market. And I couldn't be more excited about sharing that study, continuing to do research on this molecule, and sharing this story with as many people as possible, because the testimonials that we get regularly are just amazing.
That's absolutely fascinating. I mean, I can understand the correlation between the cost-benefit analysis now, considering how effective it is in helping people to live. Tell me, Chris, what is the difference between the industrial molecule and the human-safe consumable molecule?
Yeah, and I'll kind of, the whole story, the way we tend to talk about it is carbon-60 is for industrial applications, and there is peer-reviewed published research that proves if you improperly process it, it's harmful. ESS60 is C60 that's been processed for safer human consumption.
Okay.
So the process of isolating pure C60 from its other constituents, right? So you have a whole gamut of molecules. Prior to the discovery of this molecule, we had diamond and graphite, and then just kind of amorphous carbon. And then now we've got this whole collection of molecules called fullerenes. The most abundant is this carbon-60. It's a soccer ball shaped. The next most abundant is carbon-70. It's a little kind of rugby shaped, right? A little bit more oblong. And you need to separate, at least at this point, we need to separate carbon-60 from the rest of the constituents. It's carbon-70, carbon-76, carbon-84. And to do that, you actually do need to use some solvents that are, we'll say, not pleasant. And so that's where you end up with this industrial and potentially harmful C60. ESS60, you've gone through that extra step of baking off those solvents. You've gone through the extra step of the chemical wash to make sure that those solvents are removed. And now you have a safe product. And it's important to point out, my lab delivered the original material to that organization. It's out of the University of Paris, where the original study was done. So it literally is my material that was used to extend the life of these test subjects by 90%. So in the C60 industry, and we're trying to improve that and move on to the ESS60 industry, there's lots of people saying, oh, that's got solvents in it. I'm like, yeah, first off, we bake it off and it's removed with a chemical wash. And second, that molecule, my molecule, extended the life of test subjects by 90%. I think we're pretty sure it's not toxic.
Yeah, no, that's certainly a consequential factor. So you mentioned fullerenes. Is the carbon-60 molecule the same as a buckyball? Because I've heard of the term buckyball used throughout the years discussing something similar.
Yeah, and it absolutely is the exact same thing. Buckyball is kind of a more familiar term that the scientists who initially discovered it. If you look at that soccer ball cage molecule, the reason the collection of molecules are called fullerenes is because of a guy by the name of Buckminster Fuller.
Right.
He's the one who brought to prominence the geodesic dome. Just an amazing futurist, a forward thinker. He was the first one who kind of described Earth as spaceship Earth, like we're just a spaceship, flying through space. And so he brought that geodesic dome to prominence. And if you're, at Epcot Center, the big dome, that's a geodesic dome. It was used in one of the world fairs, and two of the scientists who discovered this molecule attended that same fair where they had a giant geodesic dome. And so that kind of just brought them all nostalgia. And so it's now called fullerenes. And then, the most abundant is called buckyballs.
Okay. All right. Now, when you were describing the industrial versus consumable version of this, I'm reminded of, like, I don't know, like lab grade material versus human consumable medical grade material, like methylene blue. That's something I know. They do staining in the lab, and you can't necessarily ingest the one that is not specifically made for human consumption. So, what are some of the dangers if you were to ingest one of these substances that had not properly been filtered? So, perhaps somebody making it cheaply as a competitor to you. What are the dangers of that?
Well, so here we start getting into some of the papers that are out there, and there's one that's kind of recently has gotten some recent prominence. But I'll just say one of the original ones, when we were first considering, coming out of the carbon nanomaterials space, which we're still in. We still sell carbon nanomaterials to research institutions around the world, and kind of going into the supplement space. The papers that were written that were negative about C60 were really improperly processed C60. And we're talking about, I think there's one study in zebrafish where you had genetic mutations inside the zebrafish, which, if you have these solvents in them, they're not surprising, right? Like, those are detrimental pieces. I would argue that because it was improperly processed, the extra components that they were introducing into these studies that were not the actual buckyballs, right? That were not what we would call ESS60. Those are the components that were doing the damage. One of the recent studies that came out was the way the study worded it. It was like, oh, we've given kind of what would be acceptable exposure to light, and it created some free radicals and caused some damage. Well, their term for acceptable exposure to light is drastically different than mine. I would not leave my olive oil, nor would I leave my olive oil with ESS60 in it, like in my backyard open for a month.
Sure.
Right? Like the extreme amount of light exposure really turned that paper, which made people concerned, right? But was easily addressed. Is, hey, we say it exactly like this: C60 is for industrial applications, and if you improperly process it, it is proven to be harmful. And hopefully that answers your kind of question.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So, Patty, I'd like to switch gears here. Can you tell us what happened to you? What led to your illness, and what effects did arise from it? And then how did ESS60 help you move beyond that?
Well, I used to be in the field of ufology. I was an expert on crop circles, not a researcher, but an experiencer. I went in more than 100 in England. After my first crop circle and the little teeny hairs stood up on my arm and my whole body buzzed, I was hooked. So I went 2006, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, and 14. And I made 8 movies, and I won a lot of international UFO conference awards. And the field got strange. It got taken over by the dark side, the DS, and also stands for dark side. That's a good one.
Yep.
And ufology died right in front of me. And I started watching all the great researchers pass away in the course of a short period of time. The people in movie number 2 that I made, UFOs, ETs, abductees, and brilliant minds, most of them died. So something happened to ufology in 2016, 17, 18, where, oh, wow, what an accident. All the great ufologists died of weird instant things like SIDS, SIDS, but for adults, it's SAD, sudden adult syndrome. But, here we are dealing with, I think, Maui, Paradise, Boulder, Colorado, perhaps, we don't know, because we didn't see them aim and shoot, but a lot of people have photos of what they call directed energy weapons. And unfortunately, I do believe they've been used on people. I mean, we know that they were used in Cuba.
Yep.
We know that they've been, they've admitted it a few times, but sadly for me, I was threatened at the last UFO event I did. And then at the airport, I was dropped into a pool of Jello. My waist down, I felt like Jello. I don't know who hit me. I don't know what it was. I do know that I was threatened 2 days before, that I needed to back off and shut up, because my movies were telling the truth. about crop circles. And I'll just hit the punchline. The seeds are growing 30 to 400% more food and biofuel with up to 75% more nutrition per seed. You can't kill the seeds in crop circles. They will survive too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry. So my final film, Crop Circle Diaries, I was in the lab of the only great scientist and his secret partner. And he had died a year before, but I was invited to the lab for my final film and I nailed it. Full science. And then I got attacked while everyone else was being attacked. So the only thing I can say is I did survive, and it wasn't easy. I couldn't walk. I was dragged out of the airport in a wheelchair crying, and I put me on the plane, and they were like, I said, just put me on the plane, get me out of here. And I was in shock. And the whole way home, I was in shock. And then they wheeled me off and they delivered me to baggage claim, where my friend said, oh God, no. And I said, yep. She was ex-military. She knew. And she also knew that I was pushing buttons by telling the truth in times of universal deceit. So it was a very scary period when everybody that was great died. But I survived. How? I swear to God, I think it's this. Thank you, Chris and Robert. I really do. Nobody was doing it hardly back then, but I was gifted a couple of samples from people that were buying from Chris, but making it poorly, in a garage or a basement, and little Amazon stirring things, so they were like borderline products. But all of a sudden I was starting to walk and I was starting to get strength back. So that's when I contacted Chris and Rob, and I said, I don't know what you're doing, but it works. It works for extreme cases. And what I've learned over the years of working with them is that C60 at the level we're making it, which is pure C60 ESS60, not industrial grade C60, which most companies, unfortunately, are still selling. But the C60, the ESS60 in its purest form, is 172 times more powerful than vitamin C as an antioxidant. So you've got a major miracle molecule that won a Nobel Prize in 1997, whereas Chris and Robert were making it since 1991. They were ahead of the game, and they were ready for me to come in and say, let's bump this, and let's bring in all these other products. And Chris and Robert were like, what do you mean face serum? And I said, oh, no, the stuff is amazing. Every time, I finish taking a hit on the bottle, I wipe around and I rub it on my skin. And all of a sudden, my skin, I'm 70. So my skin, started getting a lot younger. And I did 50,000 miles on a Harley with no windshield, no helmet. So my skin was begging for the ESS60. And so now I'm going, oh my God, skin and hair. And then a sick man put uranium in my garage because they didn't take me out the first time. And that was in 2019. Right before I met with Chris. And I rode in an ambulance to the emergency room. I'd lost 25 pounds. I almost, And I just kept drinking my Evo, morning, noon, just drinking the Evo. And here I am. And I'm so powered up. From the waist up, I am like a power machine because I know what's going on more than most people. I know directed energy weapons are real. Very unfortunate. I watched a lot of my friends die. And I was hit on stage at one of those events. I left the stage.
Wow.
And then I realized, what am I doing? All these people are blah, blah, blah. So I've left ufology, but my films, cropcirclefilms.com, are the only ones that tell the truth about this incredible phenomenon. And the thing about the ESS60, not only the immunity booster, you get better sleep also, but the mental clarity and the endurance for research is why Chris and Rob, they have the lab, they do all the manufacturing, the shipping, and they've got the incredible customer service team down there. I'm out here calling all my friends like you and getting on the shows of people that are important to the world like you, because we want you to have the most potent mental endurance and stamina so that you can keep delivering the news while we've got this TV BS that's keeping everybody really confused. So for me to be this mentally strong, I swear it's the Evo. And we have 3 different flavors. You've only experienced one so far, the strongest. And I highly recommend you take a tablespoon every day.
Okay.
Before, And I hope to get an email from you. We'll see, if it really blows your mind. But you, with all the research you do, you might be like a lot of our people saying, my God, I was up at 3 a.m. still going at it. Like normally I'm asleep by 10 or 11. So I think you'll be impressed. But we also have Roseanne Barr on board. She loves our products.
Beautiful.
And she's blowing up the waves. She loves the avocado oil, and she makes avocado toast in the morning by slicing avocados on her toast and drizzling the oil and little sea salt. So that's her thing. And Vandersteel said the same thing. My point is, I'm really going after the people that are helping us move forward in the world, because this is an advanced technology. Even though they discovered C60 when the volcanoes, blah, 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 at the foot of the volcano, or they claim there's red stars that drop a little C60. I don't know if that's true, but there's not enough of it to help the world heal from what we've just been through the last 3 years. I mean, I say congratulations to your audience. Everybody that's still alive.
Oh, yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
But if you want to be alive and thriving, you got to hit on C60 Evo. This stuff really helps. And believe me, they've tried to get rid of me. And I'm just like, yeah, no.
Not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan. And pets, dogs, cats. I mean, we take the strong olive oil, put a little bacon essence for dogs, a little salmon essence for cats.
Nice.
The testimonials. Dogs don't lie. Cats don't lie. They're just moody. But these dog stories that are people saying, my 14-year-old dog, I had to carry him down the stairs to go to the bathroom. Now he bounds up the stairs.
Wow. Yeah. Chi-Chi, he's 15 going on 16. And my cat Smokey, she's got to be at least 18. I don't even remember how old my daughter was when we got her. That's how long ago it was. But, well, Chris, you mentioned the specific study about the longevity that people receive from this. Do we understand the actual mechanism that allows for these incredible changes to happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I share this, rat study where these rats are living 90% longer, I usually get two kind of responses. One of them is from New Yorkers going, why would you want rats to live longer? You should bury this report and never show anyone
Get rid of
it. We've got enough. And then the other is, okay, what are the mechanisms, right?
Yeah.
The medical community, and there's debate about this, which is appropriate, but there's the medical community tends to believe that aging is caused by oxidation and inflammation. Mm-hmm. And we tick both of those boxes. And I've got to kind of elaborate. Patty already mentioned there's an ad hoc web on the web study that shows the product to be 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. There's peer-reviewed published research that shows it to be 125 times more powerful than vitamin C. So certainly checking the box of an antioxidant. The next is anti-inflammatory. And we have to be really careful from the FDA's perspective. What we're allowed to say is that we address inflammation caused by exercise-induced inflammation, right? So we've all had a workout or maybe just walked longer than we normally did one day, and the next day we feel that inflammation. Mm-hmm. Our product definitely addresses it. We're not allowed yet. We just need more research, and I think this is the right response. The right decision is we need more research to say that we address other types of inflammation, because those have direct ties to the diseases of inflammation, like Alzheimer's and arthritis and cardiovascular disease. So we're not able to talk about those yet. I can wrap that up and say we fit perfectly in the anti-inflammatory diet, right? That's a diet known for the blue zone people. Those people tend to live longer, tend to have reduced incidences of stroke, reduced incidences of heart attacks. Yes, we fit in that type of diet. Now, I do want to come back to the antioxidant, because there's a theory that we've been kind of playing with, really, and there's some peer-reviewed published research that supports this theory. And so we know from peer-reviewed published research that this molecule, right, this soccer ball-shaped molecule, ESS60, gets into the mitochondria. Just kind of brief overview, mitochondria, we have about 50 to 5,000 in every one of our cells in our body, and they are the powerhouses of our cells. So they're really the thing that takes food that we've digested, pushed into the bloodstream. They take that, convert it into the energy source that cells use, and that's called ATP. That's the mitochondria. Just like most energy powerhouses, there are some negative byproducts, right? You think about a car going down the street, you've got exhaust. You think about a power plant, you've got the smokestack. In the case of mitochondria, what they produce is reactive oxygen species. Those, if they're left uncontrolled, run around the body, and I kind of describe them like a bumper car. Everything they bump into, they're doing damage to. And that's the oxidative stress that the medical community says this is part of aging. Inherent into the mitochondria are two components that deal with those reactive oxygen species. That's glutathione and melatonin. We're all kind of familiar with melatonin as a sleep hormone. Interesting, our most consistent testimonial includes better sleep, and we can talk about kind of testimonials here in a second. We know that different parts of the body can get depleted of components. We know that this ESS60 molecule is sitting in the mitochondria. We know that this ESS60 molecule can actually hold 6 negatively charged particles. Reactive oxygen species are negatively charged particles. So we believe that the presence of this ESS60 molecule, when that mitochondria is depleted of glutathione or melatonin, this acts like a paddy wagon to hold on to those reactive oxygen species. Think about like Bourbon Street, the end of Mardi Gras. The reactive oxygen species are tearing up the street, and the police are the glutathione and the melatonin. They come and handcuff themselves to the reactive oxygen species and get them off the street. But when they get depleted, now they just end up inside this paddy wagon. Now, just for scientific clarity, they don't go inside of it. They're just attached to the exterior. Then when the police can reinforce the glutathione and the melatonin, they can come to this ESS60 molecule. They can grab that reactive oxygen species off of it and then take it off of Bourbon Street. And so that's called the BOSS theory, buffering oxidative stress system. So we know it gets in the mitochondria. That's just pivotal. That's an impressive thing because a lot of antioxidants aren't small enough to get into the mitochondria. And then its ability to hold up to 6 negatively charged particles, potentially reactive oxygen species, puts it in a very unique methodology. And we've been looking for, from the beginning, we have literally head to toe testimonials, systemic and different systems in the body. What could possibly cause that? Well, if you're making each of your cells function better because you're improving the powerhouse of every cell, then that just explains all the testimonials that we're getting.
Oh, yeah, certainly. So now, how about the metabolism of this particle or the excretion? I mean, I'm assuming it doesn't just accumulate in the body. I mean, how does it work its way through, and how long is it in there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So typical studies, and these are in rats, talk about a 10-day cycle where the material comes out. I think that there's a slight flaw in that study. And here, let me explain why my thought process. In that original rat study, so let's think about this, and I'll describe the unique component of the tumors. A typical Wistar rat lives out to about 32 months, and they have a known amount of tumor mass in their body. So the longer they live, the more tumor mass they have in their body. Even though the C60 Evo rats lived out to 62 months, none of them had any tumors in their body, right? So that's a pretty impressive piece. In that study, the test subjects weren't given any dosing until month 10, right? So that's about a third of the way through a typical Wistar rat's life. I like to share that because it's not too late to start taking this, right? Like they didn't get it until they were actually fully adults. And then their last dose was at month 17. So you think at month 17, the last dose of either water, olive oil, or olive oil with ESS60, those were the 3 test groups, was at month 17. All of the water rats died on average at about month 32. And then the C60 Evo rats lived out to month 62. So there's a different thing going on. And here's what I think. I think that, yes, you measure 99% of what's excreted, and you can get a hold of it. But there's a small amount that's remaining. And just to give you some perspective on how small this molecule is and how much of it is, and even 1 drop of C60 Evo, there's 475 times more of these molecules than there are cells in your body.
Wow.
In just 1 drop.
Plenty to go around.
Yeah, right. So it's probable in my mind, right? There's more research that needs to be done on this, but if you just left one of these buckyballs, right, these ESS60 molecules and a number of cells around the body, you'll never measure that small of a quantity, right? And so, yes, it's all excreted within 10 days, but there is some resident doing this kind of buffering oxidative stress system. And then I can tell you from testimonials, it usually is at about between 5 and 10 days where somebody, I'll share one of our testimonials. So my business coach describes it this way, and I love this because it's very binary. I don't like, oh, I feel better. I like, this is what used to happen. This is what now happens. My business coach says he used to wake up with the alarm clock for 50 years. When he started taking the product, he wakes up before the alarm clock every day. Sometimes I don't get some to him. So about 5 to 10 days. And for him, he says it's usually about 5, but other customers between 5 and 10 days out is when he reverts back to needing the alarm clock, right? Okay. So that has that parallel of most of it is excreted in 10 days.
Okay, excellent. I mean, any other specific testimonials you guys want to tell us about? I mean, I can imagine that this would be fascinating to do studies in humans with cancer. Like, have you guys considered that, or is that even possible?
Yeah, we're certainly.
We have to be careful with
that's why I'm asking, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, we're certainly considering studies in cancer studies, right? And really that would be in collaboration with different universities or different kind of medical organizations. The challenge is those are extremely expensive.
Sure.
And one of the other big challenges is this is not a patentable product, right? So at this point, the molecule is outside of the patents. And so for those organizations that tend to have the amount of money you need to run those studies, you know, so we're going to end up doing a lot of cajoling, a lot of convincing, and ultimately this will still be a product that's available to the people in general, right? Like, so it's going to be a long road, but we are doing it. I mean, the way the scientific method is supposed to work, they did this study, the rats lived 90% longer. Another organization is supposed to come in and do that same study. Well, that study was done more than 10 years ago, and nobody stepped up to recreate those results. And so we're actually doing that. So we've already paid for the first 3 of the 4 studies that we really want to have accomplished before we start the rat study. And we're going to be publishing those. Excitingly, we're going to be publishing them with the lead researcher from the University of Paris who wrote the original paper. So we're like tied into this community. We are the ones driving the research forward. But yeah, there are patents related to using the molecule in cancer treatment in pets, and those patents are already out there. Wow. So you're on the right path. Like this has the potential. I want to be very careful here, right? Because cancer is such a devastating disease. I don't want to give any, of course, hints that it might. I just want to say there are implications. You know, those rats lived twice as long and had 0 tumor mass. There are indications that it is a tumor suppressant, not necessarily cancer. We know things as simple as a good diet, good sleep, good exercise are cancer preventatives. This throws it more into that line, not into the kind of the cancer cure, at least from that study. There are other studies that are pretty phenomenal. And we might as well add the FDA has not evaluated our product. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. That's the perfect time for that.
Yes, it certainly is. And Patty, did you have something that you wanted to add to that?
I did. But I keep listening to Chris, and then I just went with the flow. I wanted to say, like, the simple human version. Chris is highly scientific, which I love, but a lot of your listeners aren't. And so they're going to say, what's it going to do for me? And here I was probably the ultimate test case after the 2 incidents of people trying to get rid of me. The uranium was really remarkable. I mean, I don't know how I survived that one, but I did. And the thing about starting C60 Evo, on a physical level, some people, myself, you get a little queasy because it is gathering up all the toxins and then blowing them out of your system. I called it like a roto-rooter in my system. And, you might see things come out of you that you're like, whoa, because it's really doing a cleansing and a clearing on that mile-long track called intestines inside us. So that's the only thing I've ever heard where people were like, a little queasy, but it's like, it's because you're really toxic.
Sure.
Keep
Yeah.
going at it. And a lot of people, we say, start with a teaspoon. But if you're hardcore, if you're a researcher and you want to be up till 3, like not missing a thing, I do a tablespoon, but I
Okay.
need it. So I did want to finish the facial thing because here I am talking to these two fabulous, they allow me to call them nerd scientists. And I said, come on, the face stuff is so good. And next thing I know, Chris said, oh, okay, go for it. So we invented with a couple of formulators this incredible C60 Evo. Oh, it's so beautiful. And you're going to get yours for your
Beautiful.
wife, for you.
Oh,
But it
Lisa
says
will love it. Yeah.
revive, replenish, rejuvenate. Now, it's made of a chia seed oil base, which I've never heard of that in a facial serum. And it's finished with a rosemary essence, which they say takes your dreams into a higher frequency at night. So wonderful thing to put on when you go to sleep. It's also, I think for me, the presentation that comes in the box. Funny, my masculine partners came up with this. And then my mom said, oh my God, this stuff is so good. It healed my lips that haven't been able to heal for 100 years. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, my lips, they're all crackled and your facial serum works. So I called the lab and I go, how about lip balm? So now we've got 2 lip balms.
There you go.
Wait till you try the mint. Oh God, do you wear lip balms?
I mean, not so much now that I live down here in Florida, but when I was in Michigan, I had to, most of the year. But I am a fan of lip balm, so I'll definitely use it for sure.
I can't wait till you get your
Lisa's
package.
actually the lip balm person. She's always putting stuff on her lips, so she'll love it.
Well, it's different than most, but also the guys, Chris calls me and he's kind of like tail between his legs. He goes, okay, I know your serum is doing really, 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 really well for the face. We just came up with another miracle molecule called UTH29. It's a peptide, 30 years of research also, really great for skin, hair, blah, blah, blah. So now we have 2 different formulas for the face. We have this duo product, which is the ESS60 oil. You can see the beautiful oil. And then this is the peptide, and it's a blue, creamy formula. And the reason it comes in 2 bottles is because I'm a stickler. I don't want chemicals, neither does Chris. So we try and avoid emulsifiers and anything you can't pronounce.
Okay.
And we ended up with this beautiful 2-part formula that you activate fresh in your palm.
Okay.
Now, in the last few years, we know that most people got the flu thing.
Yep.
Most people got the needle thing in the arm. And a lot of people said, oh my God, my hairbrush is full. The shower drain is full of what used to be on my head, hair problem. So I called the lab and I said, Chris, my hairbrush is full. My drain is full. I'm losing hair, which I've never lost hair. But I went to hear Del Bigtree speak, and what a coincidence. Everybody in the audience got the flu thing.
Yep. Same thing happened to me when I went to a festival to speak at. Yeah. Actually, somebody died. I mean, I wasn't sick at all. Hadn't been sick, this was August of 2021. It was right before we moved here. And I went to Bard's Fest. I spoke, and something weird happened to me there too, to be quite honest with you. And then when we got back, I was deathly ill for like 10 days. And I haven't really been right since, if I can be perfectly honest with you. Like, I take a lot of things to keep myself healthy, and I eat a really restricted diet with, no artificial anything. And it's been something that's kind of plagued me. So I'm really interested to see, what my results are going to be. And I certainly will keep you guys informed about it. Listen, before
Wait, I got to tell you one more thing.
Oh, okay.
Hair formula. We did a hair formula, and it took me 3 weeks to get my hair back. And boy, is she
looks
back.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So everybody is giving us testimonials that the hair formula, within a short period of time, their hair stops falling out, their follicles tighten up again, and they get back to order. I did want to answer when I was having a hard time. Chris and I were both excited to say something about the big C, the 4th stage C clinics. I don't even like to say the word because I don't want anything to happen to your wonderful show. But coincidentally, we sell to 5 C clinics, 4th stage C clinics, and they buy by the dozen. And the last time one of the doctors ordered 3 dozen, I called and I said, how are you selling so much? And he said, we've got a clinic and it's daily protocol.
Mm.
They're still reordering.
Wow.
All five, probably. I haven't checked the lab shipments in the last few weeks, but in my opinion, that makes a statement that we can't.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, listen, before we close out for the day, I always like to ask my guests what your final thoughts would be. I mean, what do you really want people to take away from today's conversation? Patty, let's start with you.
I want people to have faith in our future more than anything. And that's going to take a lot of mental focus and clarity and faith. You know, I think we're really being tormented. And with the recent Maui thing, that keeps me up at night,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the truth is going to be coming out about everything soon. Everybody's going to need to have a solid platform. I don't think there's anything better. And I'm old. I've tried a lot of things. Here's my vitamins. There's like 10 per day. I do it once or twice a week. I do this every day. I wake up in the morning. I make my coconut oil coffee. Out of this world, gorgeous, fabulous, delicious. And then around noon, I take a hit of the olive oil, which is the strongest by far. And I do want to mention for people that travel, that worry about it being taken, like Del Bigtree lost his bottle, I handed him. We have capsules of the strong olive oil. And there's 180, so it's a month worth. And a lot of people really love it because the gelatin around it is like a food. So we encourage people to take your C60 Evo before noon with a little food and water. You've got food with this. So
Yeah.
A lot of people actually love this if they don't like the taste of oil on a spoon. I personally love it because I know what it's doing for me.
Sure.
We have all kinds of discounts. I do want to point out because it is more valuable than gold per ounce. Good ESS60. And we do 20% off.
I was just going to say, I think that there's a special offer for viewers of the program. You guys sent me a link, c60evo.com/RedPill78. So what can people expect when they go there?
They can use your secret code, RedPill78, probably at checkout for another 10% off.
Okay.
But before that, if they sign up for a monthly subscription and you can cancel in 3 days if you really don't want it, you're going to get 20% off. If you buy any of our gift sets, which is 2 items or more, we go up to 10 items, you know, if you want the whole kit and caboodle, and 15% off for collection sets. We have a military discount if you write us. But when people take a few minutes, it's not that expensive. You know, a lot of people think, oh my God, you know, but what's your health worth?
Sure.
So we recommend people start with a 4 or 8 ounce bottle, just so you know that it works for your body. And then you order more, but the 20% off and your code at checkout will get them a nice discount. So we recommend just take a few minutes, take advantage of the deals because they're everywhere. Pretty much anything you buy, even the big giant 32 ounce bottle, when you get to checkout, it'll say, do you want to buy 2 and get the third one for half off?
Oh,
facial serum, pretty much everything. You can buy 2 and get the third one half off. So take a minute on the website. But for me, it's like it saved my life. I have no doubt. And I think that with all due respect to the rest of the people in the industry, we tested 22 online products and the lab said woefully low. I said, were any of them at 0.8 milligrams per milliliters? Nope. 30% of that. Were any of them at 0.6? 0.06 was the one that's really promoting it.
Wow.
Because they don't have the equipment. They don't have a real lab. We have an HPLC machine, which is how we measure the carbon-60 concentration, and that stands for high performance liquid chromatography.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at light and color and concentration levels. We test every batch before it goes out. And when we tested everybody else's, we found 2 big talkers that don't even have any C60. They're selling charcoal.
Oh,
and
wow.
Supercharged.
Wow.
And, you know, no C60.
That's awful. That is awful. All right. Well, listen, Patty, thank you so much for being here with us. And Chris, well, what are your final thoughts? What do you want people to take away from today's show?
Well, I'm going to be that geeky, nerdy scientist who says, do your research, right? Go out and do your research. Understand and learn about the company. We are the lab that's been manufacturing this since '91. We are the company that delivered the material to the original study. Without our material, this industry doesn't even exist. And stay safe out there, because it's very easy to throw some stuff, like Patty mentioned. She said charcoal. I think charcoal would be better. It's more of a ink toner, right? Like a ink toner in an oil. Just be careful. I really don't. In general, I don't believe in bad mouthing the industry, and certainly not calling individuals out. That company I've actually done videos on, because he doesn't have any C60. He's not in our industry, right? Like, he's purporting to be, but not. Go do your research. Don't rely on Amazon. Like, what does a 5-star review on Amazon mean, right? It's great for a cell phone, right? It worked, and I was able to make calls. But if you think about a 5-star review on something like, I don't know, vitamin C, these people, people in general, myself included, I'm not weighing the tablets in the vitamin C container. I'm probably not even counting them, right? As long as it was just mostly full. And I'm certainly not testing them to make sure they have ascorbic acid. So,
the other thing is that you can change product listings on Amazon anytime you want. So what people are doing is getting 5-star reviews, thousands of 5-star reviews for something benign like a pencil. Of course, it's a 5-star review, and then they change it to something, like a healthcare product or something like that, and nobody knows. Nobody's the wiser. They just look and see that 5-star review.
Yeah, so just be careful. Unfortunately, do a little bit more research. The more you can know about the company and the founders and the history, the safer you're going to be. And at the end of the day, you're trying to improve your health, not damage your health.
Wise words, absolutely. So as I said, the link is in the description. You can go to c60evo.com/RedPill78. Are there any other links that you guys want to give out so that people can find you online? Any social media accounts, YouTube channels, anything like that?
Yes. We are C60 Evo on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on Truth Social. C60 space EVO.
Okay, excellent. And Chris, anything from you?
No, that's good. Like, if they want to reach out, we've got an amazing customer service team. They have like 700 5-star reviews. We do recommend, if you're going to try a product, go on subscription. You save about 20%. And our team is not trained to talk you out of canceling. So, go ahead and do that. And if you need to cancel at any time. And then if you do want to talk with me, most of the time, if you have any questions, our team will be able to answer those questions. But if you can usually control one of them to get to me if you're interested in having a conversation with me.
Okay, awesome. Well, I just want to say one more time, thank you to both of you for being here. I sincerely appreciate it. Appreciate the information. Looking forward to trying it myself. And for everybody at home, good luck and God bless. We'll see you tonight.